Hey, what's going on? It's Sharita C.W. Dela Cruz, and this is the Middle Page Podcast powered by Blast Music 24/7, Esoterica Entertainment, and you. It's so good to have everyone here tonight. We have a great guest tonight who is going to share with us words of wisdom and thought. She is an award-winning poet. She's done work in the penal system. She's a mother. She's a filmmaker. I'm just gonna go ahead and bring her in so she can tell us all about herself. Liz Straight. We have Liv Straight with us tonight. How are
Hey,
you?
what's going on? I'm excellent. How you doing?
Doing good. I appreciate you asking, and I'm glad you're doing well too. Um, so where do we start? How did you get your start in literary arts first and foremost? Where are you from?
Um, I'm from a small town on the Mississippi Gulf Coast called Ocean Springs. That's
Okay.
where I was born and raised. And
Mm-hmm.
then from a very young age, I moved around a lot, saw a lot of the country just because I had a young mom. She had me when she was 15. So
Mm.
she had two sisters that were in the army when I was growing up. So in the summertime, wherever one of her sisters might happen to be stationed, if it was within the continental US, then for the summertime, we would just go and kind of hang out with them for the summer. So I lived in Tacoma, Washington, and El Paso, Texas. And then eventually my mom married my stepdad when I was around 9 or 10 years
Mm.
old. And he was also in the military, in the Navy. So we left Mississippi at that point and went from Tennessee to Pensacola to Philly and then
Wow.
to Jacksonville. And by that
North
time, I was
Carolina
about
or Florida?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So by that time, I was about 15. And that's where I graduated from high school in Jacksonville. I did my first 2 years of college there at University of North Florida. And then from there, I ended up in Tampa for a few years. And between Jacksonville and Tampa, that's kind of where I got started with the literary arts, like you asked. Even though when I was a small child, I always knew that I wanted to be a writer. I was always a voracious reader, and
Mm.
I did creative writing, just like in my free time, and I was always really good at it in school. So
Mm.
I found myself, going in that direction from a very early age, and by the time I was graduating high school, I went to the Army Reserves, got injured, came home, and started college. So that was a
Oh,
very
wow.
small stint for myself in the military. But when I got back home, I found myself at the University of North Florida, like I said. And at that juncture, I found myself really getting involved with the arts community there in Jacksonville. I was in an African dance troupe called Noir Soleil. I was in
Oh.
plays and local theater. And that's when I experienced my first poetry open mic as well, was like around 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
So at that point, I had never, been in that world at all. But I was invited to the open mic to read one of my short stories because I wrote a lot of fiction, and that's just kind of where my creative focus was, I guess. I was writing poetry, but it was more just like, I'm gushing out all my emotions and shit onto the page, and that is how I did it, through poetry, not through fiction. So I go to this open mic to share one of my short stories, as I was invited to do. And I brought one of my poems just because it was a poetry open mic.
Right.
So I remember sitting up there and, doing my story. And then when they called me again and I read the poem, like, the reaction from the audience after I read my poem was just like, this is the shit I need to be doing right here, because I
Yeah.
had no idea that anybody would want to hear me read, my sappy, lovesick, heartbroken, like semi-revolutionary at that time poetry. So I
Yeah.
just got addicted in one night. I just kept going back, and I was embraced into the circle. And you know how it goes with the poetry community. Once you show up, and if you show back up, you family.
Right.
So,
Right.
they put your name on the list when they see you walk in the door, whether you want to read or not.
Right.
So that community, Jacksonville, just kind of really, brought me into their fold, and shortly after that I was introduced to Black on Black Rhyme because it was just in Tallahassee at that time. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mm,
Black on Black
I
Rhyme, but
am.
now they have chapters all over the place. But the original Black on Black Rhyme out of Tallahassee, they sent like a little contingency of their poetry troupe to Jacksonville to feature
Yeah.
at our, spot. And the poetry world just kept expanding for me. Like the more I was exposed to poets from all over the place, I realized that there was so much more to spoken word, and I just, wanted to devour it all.
Yeah,
So
just
that's kind of,
sponge.
yeah, so that's where it all started for me as far as poetry is concerned. And then of course, graduating into the slam community came very shortly after that. And
And boy, can she slam, y'all. Y'all don't even
that was
know.
something that was just, it was just one of those things that happened so organically. The first slam I ever did, it was in Pensacola, Florida, and I remember thinking it was just an open mic. I was there with some of my, poetry friends from the Black on Black Rhyme Tampa, and we go there, and I sign up, and I win the poetry slam, not even really knowing what it was. I was just like, okay, it's a slam, whatever. So I won that slam, and it was a qualifier slam for their slam team, which I had no idea. I didn't
Wow.
even know what that was.
You just
And
want to spit. That's all you wanted to do.
yeah, so I
Besides that.
just showed up to do my thing, won that slam, and then I went back for the semifinals or whatever it was, made it on the team, and that's how I ended up at my first Southern Fried, which was in New Orleans in
Mm, 7?
2000, no, 2003.
Oh,
2003.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
2003. I believe it was 2002 or 3, cuz I won that Southern Fried as an indie, my first one ever.
I know that's right.
So it just kept happening, like poetry just kept saying, "Yes, this is your life now. This is what you're supposed to be doing." So
Right.
that year, our team from Pensacola, that's where we drove to for that slam, was to Pensacola. We went to, remember being so starstruck by a lot of the poets who are, still in the game now, but are
Absolutely.
doing like huge things like Shehan and Lemon, and like, all the people we know from Def Poetry, all the people who are like writing in Hollywood, and just really doing amazing things. They
Yes.
were still slamming back then. So Chicago was amazing. Our team came in 11th, I remember that year at Nationals, our first time ever going.
Mm.
And from then it just kind of became my life. I mean, there's so many chapters along that journey in poetry, but that's really, the roots. That's the beginning of it. That's how I got, baptized in the ways of the spoken word community.
Got you. And so, did you evolve into other places in regard to? I think you have a part of your degree specialty is journalism.
Yes. So I was doing that. I was editor of my high school paper, director of my high school creative writing magazine. And originally my major in college was journalism. When I started at UNF, I was doing, photography and all
Mm.
those classes that you do when you're a journalism major. And I was working at the paper there. And I realized quickly that conformed writing with parameters and constraints just was not for me. Like I would
Yeah.
show up to work and be miserable, and they would say, okay, it's a penguin at the library, go cover it. And
Right.
I would have to go sit and watch a penguin, at the library, and kids asking questions, and I would have to go interview, like, so how did you like the penguin, just shit like that. And I was just like, there is no way. And I
Right.
remember being like sent out on assignment, and I was so just frustrated. I would just make up shit. They would say, go do a story on truancy in the mall. So I would just go to the mall, walk around and eat, but I would make up my story. So I was still trying to find ways to do creative writing, even though I was supposed to be doing journalism.
Right.
So I knew very quickly that was not the world for me. Um, But oddly enough, I still came back into journalism. Has always been a part of my life, and I came back to
Mm-hmm.
that a couple, times throughout my career, radio and print journalism as well. So it never went away. It just, I knew early on that that was not the route I wanted to take as a writer. But yeah, you're right. There's some journalism in there in my background.
Right. Can
Yeah.
you share with us about the NPR experience?
Yeah, of course. So, as I said, I lived in Tampa for a while, and while I was there, a main part of what I was doing was I was an on-air personality at a community radio station, WMNF 88.5 FM. So I started at WMNF as a local news reporter. Actually, they wanted to bring in more of like voices from the marginalized community, more Black,
Mm.
Latino, Asian, young voices, because this radio station at that point was very, old, white, hippie kind of, it didn't really have, it was right in the middle of the Black community with really no pulse on what was happening in the Black community,
Correct.
where we were in Tampa. So there was this, move to bring in fresh voices to cover the news, because we had like, an R&B show on Saturday night, and a gospel show on Sunday morning, a hip hop show on Saturday night. But as far as the news was concerned, there was no coverage of Black
Of the
folks
Black
news
community, yeah.
at all. So that they were trying to change that. So me and a few of my friends came in, and during that period where we were being trained and, shown the ropes and everything, and this was all, community radio. So there's no pay, we're volunteering to just, do these things that we're passionate about, and cover stories in our community. So at this
Mm-hmm.
point, it was like kind of like a new cycle in the programming, and they had a meeting for people to pitch show ideas. Mind you,
Oh,
I'd never
wow.
been on the radio in my life, but one of my friends suggested pitching an idea for a poetry show. So I said, okay, maybe they'll bite on that.
Right.
So I did. I went to this meeting and I said, Tampa has a thriving poetry community. We need to have some representation on the, community radio station for our poetry community. So they said, okay, cool. You haven't done radio. And I'm like, no, but I'm here and I can learn. So I had to go through the process of, making like a pilot show. I had
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to, produce it, edit it, and all that stuff. And once I did my pilot show, they were like, okay, good to go. They approved my show. And
Wow.
I had a 1 hour time slot on Saturday nights from 10 to 11, or from 11 to midnight, or from 10 to 11. I don't remember because I'm getting old, but it was on Saturday nights for 1 hour. And I'm pretty sure it was from 10 to 11 when it
Right.
first started. So anyway, this radio station used to be like the size of, probably half the size of whatever room you sitting in right now. Like, it was
Mm.
literally like a little box house that they converted into a radio station. And it was like walking in your closet, walking in the on-air studio. And I remember my
Wow.
first night, I get there, and I had been trained on how to run the soundboard, but not live on the air by myself.
Right.
So the woman who trained me, she came for my first show, and she kind of set me up. And this was when I was still like bringing poetry CDs and, switching them in the CD player. And, this wasn't,
Oh,
nothing was like
wow.
streaming from the internet. Like, I had like stacks of CDs walking from the parking lot, all my, CDs that I collected from traveling and featuring,
Yeah.
and, just networking, how that used to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, my first night on the air, I'm doing my thing, making all kind of mistakes, but it was just
You made
live
it
and in the
work.
moment, and ain't shit you can do about it. You're there, and that's it. So after my first show, the next week I came in, because it was only once a week, and I checked my
Mm-hmm.
mailbox, and I had a letter from somebody who was incarcerated. And
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
oh, that's interesting. So I opened the letter, and this brother was writing about how, he loved the show, he was listening, and, just wanted to let me know that I did a good job. It was very encouraging. Just, we heard
Mm.
your show, we loved it, we loved the poetry, keep
It's a
it
whole
up. Because
nother
I was,
demographic. Whole
yes.
nother
And,
demographic thing.
and my
Yeah.
brain was just like, okay, since I know that there's people out there who are incarcerated who are listening to my show, then I'm gonna make sure that I, reach out to them over the airwaves and just shout them
Absolutely.
out and, let them know that I know that they're there and I appreciate them, because I didn't even know that, they could have radios at that time of night. Like, I was so
Right.
naive to just anything about, life in the inside. So
Yeah.
I quickly started kind of tailoring my not necessarily all of my content, but I made sure that I always thanked them for listening. And I made sure that anybody who wrote me a letter and wanted me to shout them out, I shouted them out. I wrote every single person back, and when I'm talking about every single person in the beginning, I'm talking about maybe like 5 letters, a week, maybe 3. But then as
Yeah.
things started to snowball, I mean, I would get to the radio station and have like 60 letters crammed in my
Wow.
mailbox. And it was
You
just
are such an
becoming like this
inspiration.
crazy thing where it just became the whole, drive of my show. It was poetry, and it was making sure that the men and women and children who were incarcerated knew that they had someone who was at least thinking of them, playing poetry with
Yes.
them in mind, wanted to inspire them, wanting to make sure that they knew they weren't forgotten. So doing all this on the radio in the course of about 5.5 years, we did
Wow.
beautiful things with the radio show. That's how I started the prison tour, and I'll come back to that. But when I ended up working with StoryCorps, through NPR,
Yeah.
they came to Tampa to do like a site visit. And I don't know if you're familiar with StoryCorps, but all they do is travel around and record the stories of everyday Americans. They have these
Yeah.
Airstream trailers that they converted into recording studios, like the
Yeah.
silver bullet looking trailers. So StoryCorps was in Tampa for a couple weeks, and it was just a neat thing to do, like go in and record an interview.
Yeah.
And then I, just by signing up like for their emails and being in that whole information loop, working
Yeah.
at an NPR affiliate station as a volunteer, I heard, caught wind of them hiring for a facilitator position, which is the job where you travel around and interview everyday Americans about their life. So I
That's
applied
right.
for that job. I had all the training from doing my own radio show, because in community
Yeah.
radio, you the producer, you the talent, you the engineer, you everything. So I
Yeah.
showed up and I ran the soundboard, I did the music, everything, and I was, of course, the host. So all my skills and combined with my poetry background, my journalism background, and just my
Knock their
all
socks
around,
off.
exactly. So I got that job like it was, just like that. I mean, every interview they were like, yes, next interview. Yes, next interview. So the last interview, I flew to New York, did the interview. They offered me the job right away. And I had to just like drop everything and move to New York, which is what I
Ooh.
did, because it was literally my dream job. And
Wow.
that
Goodness gracious.
job was just so eye-opening, because we were literally like in a different city every week, every 2 weeks, traveling around, and people all from all walks of life, all ages, anything you can imagine, walked in that door to sit
Mm.
down and literally just talk to someone they cared about for 40 minutes. And it was my job, like as the engineer, to kind of sit to the side, and if they were telling like a really good story, I would have to kind of fill in the missing pieces. Like, I remember I had one story where there was 2 brothers, and one of them had rescued the other one from a fire.
Ooh.
And so they tell this story, and it's so emotional and all this, and then but they never said how the fire started. So as a journalist,
You
you
got to
got to have
find
all the
that out.
pieces to the story, because if I'm a later
Yeah.
be sitting here editing this footage, I need to be able to tell a story beginning, middle, end. So that was kind of my job, was to, if they got stuck, I would offer them questions where they could, move their conversation along. I would kind of take notes about the more interesting parts of the conversation. But we did this
Yeah.
all over the country, and anybody and their mama and or their grandmama or their second grade teacher or their auntie, or their sponsor in AA, who you could just some people, one
Yeah.
grandma, I remember coming in with 7 of her grandchildren
Oh,
piled in the
wow.
booth just so they could all interview her for 40 minutes. So the
Wow.
experiences were just mind-blowing. And that is I think maybe not even quite a year that I was working with StoryCorps. So that time frame was cut short because I got pregnant with my daughter during that time I was
That's
working for
your
StoryCorps.
first baby? Your first baby?
Yes. So I had to stop working, stop traveling because I was on bed rest for the majority of my pregnancy.
Ooh, I know that
Um,
was a change for you.
it was a super duper big old change, but everything happens for a reason. And
Yeah.
looking back on it, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it was literally like, I was doing exactly what I wanted to do in a dream position, and then bam, breaks, everything just stopped. And, I was just kind of forced to sit still and just
Hmm.
focus on, my new dream job as a mom,
Right. Did you continue?
so
Did you continue to write? Are you the type of person that journals as well
yes,
as? Okay.
yes,
So
absolutely. And, ever since I was a child, I journaled, even though, it was like called keeping a diary, of course. Back then, I remember,
yeah,
having my little diary writing about how much I was in love with Vanilla Ice and New Kids on the Block. Like, I still have those diaries.
I love
And it's just so
Jordan
funny
Knight.
right? I was a Donnie Wahlberg girl, Donnie the
Oh,
bad
oh
boy.
yeah,
That was me.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I always journaled, and even as an adult, I don't journal as much as I would like, but it's
Right.
something that's always in my toolbox, especially if I'm traveling or if I'm just trying to kind of unplug from everyday life and kind of really take a break for myself. A lot of times I do that through writing. Like it's been
Hmm.
so many things for me. And one of those things is definitely like it's like my cushiony, soft, comfortable bed that I can always come home to and crawl back in and feel
Yeah,
so, warm and just right at home. That's what writing is for me. So a
yeah.
lot of times when I find myself kind of leaning back on journaling, it's because, something in my life has happened or changed and I really need it. What
I
about you? Do you journal?
listen. I do, but I hate when things get too heavy. I just don't even want to write.
I know what
I
you
get
mean.
I get frustrated because it's like I don't know. Maybe you don't want to face the facts. But
Yeah,
some of the things that I literally have faced the facts on paper, I was able to navigate them a little bit better after being able to go back and look at it and see it like as if someone else wrote it. Did you
yeah,
ever get that feeling? So
absolutely.
yeah. Um so let's go ahead and just take a turn into life and time management balance and like being a mom. I think that's the one thing that changes the game for all of us women.
Oh yeah.
um I'm not gonna go into the feminist side of that, but for women we totally have to change because we deal with
Yeah.
the physical changes for the 9 months, and then
Yes.
the post pregnancy things that we deal with and whatnot. No matter how many children you have, every
That's
experience is
right.
different.
Yep.
And so wanting to be able to continue to have a fruitful professional life and be a effective parent, how did you navigate that?
Well, when my daughter was first born, I was not working. I was
Hmm.
fortunate enough to be at home for a little bit, and I decided to go back and finish my bachelor's degree because I was always like in college, out of college, in college, out of college, just depending on what was
Hmm.
going on. I'll take a break here and there. So finally, I said, since I have this opportunity to be a little bit, free flowing with my
Hmm.
time and my level of responsibility and how that affects my life, I took that opportunity to go back to school. So in the beginning I was pumping breast milk in the morning, going to school, going in the bathroom, pumping between classes, coming
Yeah.
home around like 11 or 12. And then the rest of my day was just spent mothering. And that
Yeah.
was nice because it was, like
Natural.
no, distractions were really pulling me in any direction where I couldn't focus on being a mom. Like class was like a couple, maybe 3-4 hours a day at the most.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I was just home, enjoying my newborn daughter. So in the beginning it was just great and it felt awesome, and thank God I didn't have like any postpartum issues. I was
Thank God.
working out and just feeling good and happy, and everything was just wonderful. My daughter was perfectly healthy and growing and thriving, and everything was just super duper. And
God is
then
good.
after I graduated, I had to work. And then everything was not so super duper.
Right.
And shit started getting hard, because then you have to think about childcare, and you really have to think about time management because you're on somebody else's clock. In college, taking classes, everything's your responsibility. You just show up, you
Hmm.
do the work, and that's all things that you can plan and navigate for yourself, however you want to best
Yes.
do that. But when you have a
Hmm.
9 to 5, it has nothing to do with how you want to best show up for that 9 to 5. You show
You
up
gotta
9 to 5 and do what you're
punch
supposed
that
to be
clock
doing.
in. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, my first job as a new mom coming back into the workforce full time was working at a law firm as a legal assistant, and that was
Ooh,
a skill that I always had, because my mom taught me early on that you need to have multiple skills so that if one falls through, you have another one to fall back on.
that's
So
right.
I
That's
was
right.
waitressing, I was a secretary, a transcriptionist, and then I quickly learned, like, going through temp agencies, that if you were working at a law firm, they paid a whole lot more just to sit at the front desk than it did at any other type of company. So I
Any other?
quickly just got into that world of doing legal administration. So I went right back
Mm,
to that. When I needed a job, I knew I could just, walk in and get a job doing that. So I did. And it was amazing because it allowed me to really, just kind of prove to myself that I could manage motherhood and working and still perform well in a professional environment, and that, motherhood hadn't changed me in the sense that I couldn't, like, forge an identity for myself as a professional. So I
yes.
was afforded that opportunity, and then I quickly realized that I did not want to be missing my baby as much as I was,
Hmm.
because the hours were just, shitty compared to what I was used to.
Yeah.
Working like 5:30, 6 o'clock sometimes, and then the baby's going to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and there's like no time to really be with her. So then I said, I'm going to be a teacher so I can have the same hours as my child once she gets old enough to go
Oh,
to school. So that's how I got into education, which has been almost 12 years now that I've
God
been
bless
working
you
in
and your
education, and
abilities.
and that's how it happened, because once I got back into the workforce after about a year, I realized I just can't, because I was just missing her too much, and I didn't want to leave her, rearing up to other people. I wanted to do
Right.
something where, one, we could be together eventually, which worked out amazingly. I eventually, after my first year of teaching, I got a job at a private school that had a preschool. So when she was 3 years old, she started, we were going to work every day together, and I would drop her
Oh,
off at her classroom and then go to my classroom and teach. So that's exactly what I wanted, was for me to have some type of, hand in and influence on her educational journey, and that is, what allowed me to, thrive as a professional and a mom. I believe was making that shift in my career choice to go into education, because it opened the doors for me to be a very hands-on parent, even though I was working full time.
I understand. So, did you ever want to be a teacher, although you had done things within your skill set that mimicked teaching or
Right.
had teaching attributes? Did you actually just want to straight up ever just be a teacher?
Nope. Never.
Mm,
Never ever. Ever. I just never saw that in the stars for me. I thought about it only because of the reasons that I said, because I wanted to
yeah.
have a matching schedule for, once my child got to the age where she was going to school. So in Florida, if you I don't know how it is in other states, but since my degree is in English creative writing, then that's what I can teach, English, because my degree is not in education. So you get,
Hmm.
a special or a subject area specific certification to teach.
Credential or certification. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's only for that subject area. I could teach journalism and English, 5th through 12th grade. So that's what I did. So I never went to school for education. I never took a class in college that was for educators or teachers ever. I was literally just showing up and figuring shit out as I went, which is horrible to say, but a lot of teachers are doing that even still today. Like, you just show up and use the skills that you have and be kind to the kids and teach them what you're supposed to teach them. So that's what I did. I literally just looked at the book and I said, okay, by the end of the year, they're supposed to learn all this. So let me just work backward. Like, that's how I figured out how to lesson plan. I just read the book and just made shit up. Like, it was so crazy when I first started teaching. But I think, like everything, like any major change in my life, I feel like it was trial by fire. It was the same way with teaching. I was at a public school. It wasn't the worst school in the world, but I still had like 16-year-olds on house arrest in the 8th grade. Classes with like 30 kids and
wow.
and half of them read like at a 2nd grade level if they read.
So you had work to do.
Yeah. I taught it all. I taught the lowest of the low and the highest of the high. My first year teaching.
I'm sorry, that excited me. I apologize.
Yeah.
Because as gifted as you are, all of the things that you have mentioned to us at this point in the conversation, you literally put your hand to something and it came to pass and you were successful at it. Like there's a special kind of person that you have to be able to go from being a strong advocate in literacy with people who, like obviously if they have house arrest, they've had trials and things that they've dealt with, along with their teenage emotions and hormones, and being able to navigate that classroom as well as an honors classroom where there's more discipline. Oh man, I just want to say thank you. If no one has ever said it, to be able to put all of those things to work in a place that you never thought that you would be. Real quick.
Never thought I would be.
I understand. Real quick, we're going to go into the artist spotlight real quick, and we're going to come back to this topic. Veep, are you there?
Yep, I am here. Great show, ladies. All right. Tonight's artist is sponsored by Blast Radio 247. Choose your favorite browser. You can log in to Blast Radio 247, hear all of our podcasts, as well as great independent music. Tonight is my man, Elijah Rosario, and this is called Best of Me. Let's check it out.
Say what's on your mind, tell it like it is. Is there something in your heart wanting part in it? If that's the case, then girl, just say so. Games, I ain't tryna play those. Know you protective of your heart. Know you healing from them scars. Well, how about tonight we just put all our worries aside? Take advantage of this moment. Hold me tight, I'm talking close. I've been seeing clearly lately. Ain't no guarantee, just maybe. One thing that I'm certain of, I can't live without your touch, no. Kiss me like the first time that we met. Love me like we'll never love again. I'll save you every time before myself. Don't want nobody else. Give you the best of me. I know you ain't need a feeling, not just talking sexually. You like the dance in the mirror, you do it so graciously. I feel like nothing else matters when you laying next to me. When you laying next to me, give you the best of me. I know you ain't need a feeling, not just talking sexually. You like the dance in the mirror, you do it so graciously. I feel like nothing else matters when you laying next to me. I'll give you the best of me.
Don't wanna waste no time. You know a good girl's really hard to find. You've been heavy on my mind. Boy talk is cheap, better wait in line. Love the way I move to the baseline, waistline. Bad girl, not only on FaceTime. You know true love really takes time. Can't find a love if you ain't mine, no. Watch me wind it slow. Watch you lose control. Just wanna let you know, this is how the thing goes. Make him spend 6 figures on the bling. African bad girl deserve to find the things. Private jets, baguettes, and diamond rings. Summertime drop top money ain't a thing like what it seemed like.
Kiss me like the first time that we met. Love me like we'll never love again. I'll save you every time before myself. Don't want nobody else. Give you the best of me. I know you ain't need a feeling, not just talking sexually. You like to dance in the mirror, you do it so graciously. I feel like nothing else matters when you laying next to me. When you laying next to me, give you the best of me. I know you ain't need a feeling, not just talking sexually. You like to dance in the mirror, you do it so graciously. I feel like nothing else matters when you laying next to me. I'll give you the best of me.
Yes, indeed. And that was our boy Elijah Rosario with Best of Me. And if you are an independent artist, spoken word poet, or even an up and coming comedian looking for some exposure, you can go to blastmusic247.com and register for free. But here's the beautiful thing: Blast needs the fans. So fans of great music, you can go to blastmusic247.com, register for free, and be a part of the family. Blast, changing the industry one artist at a time. All right, ladies, back to you.
Thank you. Oh gosh, Liz, I think I had just said it. I'm so proud of you. To have been so successful in the places that you were successful, with poetry, with the National Public Radio, and I'll just be frank. Some women are very, very, very career driven, and that might have put them in a different place than you found yourself when you became a mother, and then realized the barriers that motherhood would have on the type of professional life that one would like to have. Do you find that you miss, being out on the road or going different places, or does your resolve to be, and I'm not even being cynical, it's just a fair question, your resolve to be the best parent that you could be to your children, how do you handle that right there, knowing that you have all of this power
Right.
in other places?
I try not to live my life as a regretful person. It's exhausting, and I used to be, really hard on myself for different life decisions that I made along the way. But when I did become a mom, I found that, my priorities shifted instantly. And I found myself, drawn to a lifestyle where I wanted to be more present and in the moment with my child, and be, like you said, the best parent that I could be. And I understood what that meant. Coming into it, I understood what that meant. I can't say that I was ever really trying to like grasp or hold on to the lifestyle that I had, because it just instantly became unimportant, because being a mom was the most important thing. And I really can't say that I don't miss it, but not in the way where it makes me sad. You know what I mean? Like, I miss it because it was fun, because the memories were great, and the people were great. And, I've made and built lifelong friendships along the way when I was doing those things, when I was on the radio and traveling and, hosting open mics and doing features like literally all over the world. It was cool, but being a mom is like a gazillion times cooler. So I don't miss it in that sense where, like I wish I had it back. It's just one of those things that, when I have opportunities that present themselves, especially now that my daughter's a little bit older, I can do things when things pop up and someone says, can you, come and participate in this or that or whatever. And I can pick and choose when I say yes and when I say no. And that was something that I really didn't have the freedom to do when that was my livelihood. I didn't really feel like I had the freedom to turn down any opportunity for money or exposure. As things got like really good, I could turn down, those exposure opportunities, but I rarely turn down the money opportunities. So if somebody said, you want to feature here, there, wherever, I was like, yes, yes, yes. I didn't care if it was one night here, one night there, and one night in a whole nother city. I would do it because that's what I did to feed myself. So now it just feels like not necessarily something that I've lost or given up, but it's just something that I can, it's like going to the beach and putting my feet in the water, and then the water goes out and it comes back in, and then the waves go out and they come back in. And I can kind of choose if I want to walk up and let the waves, come up to my feet, and if I want to let my feet get wet, or if I want to stay back on the sand and just, not take part, because that is what, like the foundation that I built becoming a working mom in the field of education has allowed for me to do that. Like I don't miss being a full-time artist and not having health insurance and not, worrying about if a show canceled and I can't pay my rent. It's just like, come on, man. So I admire and like bow down to people who are still living full-time artists' lives, because not every artist is a struggling artist. Like you really have to carve your way, and people can live, their best possible life, like literally doing their art for a living. But me, I didn't find that was what I wanted to do. I don't even know if I could have made that happen, that I would have chosen it, because it still would have been time away from my child and
the life that you were building with your children and your family, and that
I
as the changes occurred.
I had an idea of what I wanted that to look like, and I didn't want it to be an on the road life. I just, I'm very, very pleased and comfortable with the choice that I made, that I wanted to live a more, not necessarily traditional, but just a more settled kind of lifestyle, because I know myself better than anyone. And I know that lifestyle was not meant for Liz, the mom. That was meant for Liz pre-child. Right. That life was not meant for Liz post-child.
Right.
I know that.
We know how that artist life works.
You know how you say life sometimes just tell you to sit down? I knew that it was time for me to just sit my ass down. And that is exactly what I needed at that moment in time.
I tell you, I asked that question because a lot of people might not know how to versify that to themselves. There may be some women or men out here who are still struggling with the aspect of how do I navigate? And those things that you mentioned could be deal breakers for certain people in their lives. It's like, hey, I never thought of it that way. Because I mean, just your analogy about your feet in the sand, and you can decide whether you want to go in the water or not. That's broad, I appreciate all of your input. Work-life balance is really important, especially whenever you're trying to live a fulfilled life. A lot of us, like I can subscribe to your mother's life. I had my daughter when I was 15 years old. And you have to, you're already in the process of trying to figure out who the hell you are.
Exactly.
And then you go and have a kid, and then you want to be able to give the best life to your child. For me, I'll just be candid because I like to give people examples through life as well. I had to work a lot. And that kind of put strain on the relationship that I had with my child that I had when I was 15, my daughter and I, because you were never there and this, that, and the third. And being that her father was incarcerated for 17 years in her youth. And, you know, I had the grand responsibility of taking care of her financially. And so that career-driven nature that I mentioned, that is I. You know, because once you get into that rhythm, it's like, you know, money's in the house, you're taking care of things. And if you drop the ball drops.
Yes.
You know, and so I'm so grateful to know that women can make drastic decisions, but yet fulfilling decisions for their lives and for their families. And that is a great sacrifice and a great testimony to how family works. Let's talk about, you said you breastfed, so I can anticipate that you live a healthier lifestyle in regard to nutrition and wellness. How do you balance that out with your busy life?
Well, one thing that I do at every day that it's humanly possible is I do intermittent fasting. So as far as what I eat, I went through, days where I was a vegetarian for 7 years or so. Then I went through a time where I only ate like fish and nothing else. Now I eat everything, but I don't I try to stay away from fast food at all costs, and I try to cook at home, or at least eat whole foods that are, prepared and not processed.
Right.
But
clean eating.
Yeah. So intermittent fasting has really helped me just kind of regulate, as I get old, which literally happened to me. I feel like it was like the second I turned 40, I was just like, yo, something is very different. But I find that for me, talking to my doctor before I did it, I thought I'm just gonna seriously give it a try, because I tried it in the past, but not with any discipline. So this time around, which has probably been over a year now, I try to eat for the first time around 10:30, 11 o'clock. And then I usually eat my last meal. I try really hard to make it by 6:30. But sometimes, if I have a dinner reservation, or for example, tonight I had choir practice and I didn't have time to cook in between getting home from work and having to leave to go back for choir practice. So I ate when I got here at 8:30 before I jumped on with you. Then I ate. So sometimes it's off a little bit, but for the most part, that's what I stick to, that schedule. So it helps me regulate my energy, helps me sleep better, because I'm not going to sleep on a full stomach, bloated and just feeling that feeling of food still digesting in my system. A lot of time goes by from the last meal that I have to the time that I go to bed. And keeping with that, I try to have the same bedtime every night if it's at all humanly possible. I usually go to bed between 9:30 and 10:30. And I get up at 5:45 every day. But I when I do eat my first meal of the day, it's usually the same thing. I either do overnight oats with bananas and milk and honey and cinnamon and walnuts and chia seeds, or I do a fresh fruit, kind of like papaya, pineapple, grapefruit, banana with nuts and chia seeds. And that's usually one of those two options is the first thing I eat each day. And then for lunch, I have to eat on the schedule that my students do.
Right.
So we all have lunch at 12 o'clock. So at 12 o'clock, I'm fortunate that I teach at a school where the food in the lunchroom is actually very good. They really do cook good food.
That's
so
good.
Sometimes I can go to the lunchroom and get homemade meatballs and green beans and, good stuff like that. But I try to cook enough at night so that I have enough the next day for lunch.
Right.
And usually for dinner, I'm doing a protein and a vegetable, or, very and I'm trying to not necessarily avoid starches, but I try to just eat the portions that are good enough for me in the moment. Like I don't eat anymore until I feel like I'm about to explode, which is
Right.
what I used to do. You know, I wasn't eating mindfully, but these days I try to be very mindful about my portions and just, you know, when I'm full, it's okay to stop. I feel
Yeah,
like, you know, God willing, I know where my next meal is coming from. So I don't have
that's
to eat
right.
like this is my last meal. Like I feel like it's something like about just being in the army and growing up in a family where, you know, this is what's on your plate and you better eat it all, you know,
All
kind of
of it.
upbringing.
Yeah,
So, you know, I kind of had to deprogram myself from that and just, you know, eat when I feel hungry and eat just enough so that I'm satisfied. And that's it. You know, sometimes I go through phases where I'm like really like, you know, not so much counting calories, but being like extra mindful. Like if I'm in a phase where I'm working out like heavily, like 5, 6 days a week, which I'm not in that phase right now, but I was very recently. I just took a break because I just felt like I needed it. But when I'm really heavy into working out and lifting weights, I'm even more aware of what I'm eating. But like you said, I try to aim for, you know, clean eating, cooking at home as much as I possibly can. And, you know, not snacking, you know, stuff like that really helps to keep me where I need to be, like grounded and mindful that, you know, this is the vessel that I have, the only one. So I got to treat it like it's 43 years old and not 12 years old.
that's right.
So, yeah.
Listen, I appreciate that because a lot of people think that you gotta eat to get full. A lot of times, just because you get full, you've overeaten. If you have to
Yeah,
like wiggle or loosen your belt
exactly.
to you know continue your meal, it's a little bit you know over the top. I've
Right. If you got to
noticed
pep talk yourself into it, like take a deep breath, like,
two more
okay,
bites, just
I
two
can
more
do this.
bites.
Yeah. It
Right.
shouldn't be like a challenge.
Not at all. Not at all. I
Oh, goodness.
found that trying to get more, I really have been trying to put what, you know, the lemon in the water or the cucumber in the water before
Yeah.
I drink it or eat anything else during the day.
Yeah.
It's just hard, man.
It
Especially
is.
I work at I'm a manager at a fast food restaurant currently
Uh-huh.
in my traditional workforce job.
Right.
Oh gosh, those meals and the little fries and stuff like
Yeah.
that, it's
Temptation
so
is
inviting.
always there.
But it's
Always.
like if I bring some celery or bring some
Hmm.
green peppers and onions to just put on a tortilla and eat it up real quick, because
Yes.
I'm on the verge of veganism, but
Nice.
I still enjoy chicken wings.
Yes. That's what broke me the first time I went from vegetarian to non-vegetarian. My roommate at the time, we were just like, let's go get a whole chicken and cook it and eat it. We were both vegetarian. There were
I
other
know, so that
factors
was like,
involved. Yes.
let's go.
But let me tell you, we
Did
just
you
had
do
a
it?
moment. Yes, we did it. And I never looked back. Yeah, there's just a time where you realize that there's just something that I want, and you can still do it, you know, in moderation, as they say. But I feel you on that. There's some things where I'm so glad that I'm eating it again, like bacon. I hadn't eaten pork since I was 14 years old, and
So
I
you
just
just
started
like all
eating
the
pork
different kinds
again.
of bacon they have
Yes, I
now.
just started eating pork again about 4 years ago,
Oh my
maybe,
gosh.
yeah, about 4 years ago.
Amaze balls.
It
And you're
started with
just having
pepperoni.
fun.
It started with pepperoni on pizza, and now I'm all the way back at barbecue rib and brisket
Oh
and all that.
no,
Yeah,
not
it
brisket and
was a
barbecue
quick,
ribs.
easy transition.
I literally was in the grocery store today telling my story, telling my truth to some to this random lady. No. And I was like, you know, I was trying to be on the turkey bacon, but I couldn't find a good turkey bacon.
You can't
And
find
you
no
know,
good turkey bacon. That ain't even a sentence. That makes
I
sense.
found a good one today. I did find a good one today, but you actually got to cook it. You know what? My
Yes.
secret is to bake the turkey bacon. Don't try to fry it
Yes.
in a pan.
Yeah, when I was
Bake
eating
it,
turkey bacon, definitely in the oven. Yes, definitely.
drizzle a little olive oil or avocado oil on it,
Yeah.
and try to crisp it up.
Yeah,
You
you
know what
gotta
I'm
give it some
saying? But
gas. You gotta give it a little,
that
yeah,
doggone
kind of
pork
level it up.
bacon, they got
Yeah.
candied bacon. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? What are
Yeah.
you trying to do? How much water do you consume? Do you find that water
All day
is?
long.
Are you a good water person, or are you one of those people
all day
that has
long.
to have flavored water?
I mean, I do like I love LaCroix. I love sparkling water.
I think they're really
Because it
good. The
helps me
little
drink
wildberry
water.
one. The
Yeah,
wildberry
it
one is my
helps me
favorite
drink
from there.
water because if I'm eating something and I want like the fizzy or some kind of taste, then
Yeah.
that's what I do. I don't buy soda. I very rarely drink soda, like ever. I'm a water drinker. Every time I go to a restaurant, I order water. In my house, water. I don't buy juice. I don't buy soda. It's just water. That's all I drink. Black
That's why your
coffee.
complexion is glowing
Yeah.
at 9:00 at night.
I don't put anything in my coffee. Black
It's dewy.
coffee.
Look at her forehead. That's not.
That's sweat.
That's
That's sweat. That's sweat.
That's a
It's been a
beautiful.
long day. Yeah.
Is
That's
it warm?
oil.
Is it
That's
warm
just
where you are?
naturally oil. Come on, man. I live in West Palm Beach. It's more than
Oh
warm. It's
my.
hot. Yeah.
Oh
It was
wow.
about 80 something today. And it
Oh
rained all day.
wow. So it was a muggy rain.
Yeah. Muggy. And we hadn't had rain in a probably over a week. So it was a lot of rain. We got like over an inch of rain just in a couple hours.
Wow.
But water, I'm very good with drinking water. I like I said, I very, very, very rarely drink soda. I don't drink alcohol. I stopped drinking alcohol right around COVID. So that was just a personal choice that I made because right around when COVID hit, the school where I had been teaching for 8 years was closing. They had announced that they were closing after 28 years being in operation.
Wow.
I was going through a divorce. COVID hit, and this was all at the same time.
Wow.
So I said, I can't be, drowning in my sorrows and
That'd be trouble.
I just said, and I'm like a cold turkey person. Like I remember when I was like a teenager and I used to smoke cigarettes, cold turkey, just never looked at one ever again. Because when I was like anything like that, it's just like even like being a vegetarian and going back to eating meat. Like when I decided I wanted to be a vegetarian, there was no like slow, gradual lifestyle change. It was just like, I'm a vegetarian now. And that's it. And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna eat meat again. That's it.
I think cigarette smoking was the only vice that I had that was truly something I never picked back up. I never picked it back up. Yeah. It was really just, it was one day. I've been smoke free since 2013. It was like Final Four, we're bar hopping, watching games and stuff. We just finished watching a Carolina Villanova game. Got in a car accident with my ex.
Oh my God.
And the girl hit us real good. I was driving a Tahoe. She was driving a Pacifica. She hit me real good. And totaled my truck. He had tapped out a fresh pack of Newports, while we was waiting for the cops to come. He was like, "You want one?" I was like, "Nah." I think I was just so bamboozled about what happened in that. And my truck, I loved my Tahoe. And I never picked up another cigarette after that day. It was March 22nd, 2013. It's crazy. Wow. So I totally understand what you're saying about being able to go cold turkey on the thing.
Some things are just like that. I haven't been like that with everything in my life, but some things, usually, especially if it's like a lifestyle change and I've made my mind up about it, then that's it.
That's right. Would you like to impart any other wisdom on our listeners and viewers about how to maintain a work-life balance before we get your social media handles, if you're willing to share?
Yes. If you have not, try meditation. It changed my life. I surely wish we would have mentioned that earlier in the conversation because I'm a certified meditation instructor. I teach meditation to kids and adults and especially working moms. I think out of all like the group workshops that I've done teaching meditation, working moms is the most popular group that I have reach out to me for like intro to meditation classes. So just try meditation, drink water. Don't be afraid to say no. The power of saying no is a huge thing. Guard your time, guard your space. Guard your boundaries, and if you can just be firm in who you are, even though that's ever changing, just be firm in who you are and know that every single day you have the opportunity to be the person that you want to be. Every moment you have the opportunity to be the person who you want to be. Just because you made a bad choice 5 minutes ago doesn't mean that you can't reset and make a different choice 5 minutes later. Just always never be afraid to begin again, whether it's healthy habits, whether it's healthy emotional choices. Just always know that there's never a bad time for a fresh start. But that's my words of wisdom. You know, you guard your time, you guard your space, you do what you need to do to feel capable in your own skin. Because sometimes you look in the mirror and you say, I can't do this. And that's okay too. But whatever you need to feel capable, do that for yourself. And don't ever be afraid to do things for yourself. Only. Just for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Real quick, I don't know if you've seen, thank you for that. I don't know if have you seen the Nia Long Jeezy interview?
No, but I heard about it. This was just recently, right? A couple days ago.
It's amazing.
I will check it out.
Please do. And encourage others to do so, because it's I don't even want to tell you about it. I'm just let you know it's phenomenal. But the reason why I mention it is because she said something just like that. Don't be afraid to live for yourself. I've seen, of course, we see the memes and stuff. I saw a meme the other day. You can't do anything for someone else if you can't do it for yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. It's just how many times can we hear it said, that we have to make sure that we're establishing ourselves within ourselves to be able to do anything else, whether for our spouse, our children, for anything outside of our bodies. Just, yes. So we really appreciate that wonderful knowledge. Do you want to share where people can find you for the meditative assistance?
Yep, lizstraight.com, LIZZSTRAIGHT. I'm pretty sure that's my website. Because I have two. I have elizabethstraight.com and lizstraight.com, but I'm pretty sure lizstraight.com is the meditation one. And I'm also on Facebook, Liz Straight. Instagram is also Liz Straight, but I think the @ is Not Your Poetry Puppet. Like literally just like it sounds. Not Your Poetry Puppet. Same thing on Twitter, Liz Straight.
Remember, it's two Z's, y'all. Two Z's.
Yes, 2 Z's. And I think TikTok, I'm Liz Straight too. Or I'm Not Your Poetry Puppet. I'm on social media, but I don't live by social media. So I know Liz Straight is just, yes, you'll find me. On all those platforms, you'll find me, Liz Straight. Yes. But yes, if anybody has any questions about meditation, getting started, the basic 101 breakdown, just hit me up, human to human. I'm always down to talk to people about that. Always.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was great. This flew by.
I told you, time flies when you're having fun and giving a wonderful information that you've given us. God bless your life. God bless your family's lives. And just keep pressing and doing all that you're doing for your community and the world at large. She mentioned you can find her at lizstraight.com and all of her social media handles. Either I'm Not Your Puppet or Liz Straight.
Yeah, I'm Not Your Poetry Puppet, or Not Your Poetry Puppet, or Liz Straight. That's it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you can find us at info.middlepage. Was it at info.middlepage on Instagram? Yeah, girl. Look, when you get our age, we're analog girls in a digital world. So we're trying to navigate this thing. We're trying to navigate this thing. Content creators, content sisters, right?
Yep,
so yes, make sure. Some of you caught this episode of the Middle Page Podcast by clicking on the link on the post. Otherwise, we would love for you to subscribe to Blast Music 24/7 so you can catch all of the episodes of the Middle Page Podcast, including other great programming that Blast Music 24/7 provides. We've had a wonderful time with Liz straight out of Florida. And I'm sure to see W. Dela Cruz, and this has been the Middle Page Podcast.
Thank you, Sharita.